We're back with the 2024 Lexus IS350. It is time to do another oil change. Wait, don't go anywhere. It is not a how-to on changing the oil in the IS350. We've done that on another video, and it'll be down in the description below. What we are here to talk about today is other maintenance items that you need to be starting to look at, and should you be doing the 10,000 mile oil changes. All right, so let's discuss the 10,000 mile oil changes real quick. I know this subject often gets beat to death, but can you do it? Should you do it? There are some circumstances in which I say yes. For the most people, no. Let's cover the yeses. All right, so let's cover the first scenario. You're only going to keep the vehicle for a maximum of about 3 years. And you're only going to be, running 12, 15,000 miles a year. You're not even going to be out of base warranty, and you're just going to be doing the very minimum to keep the vehicle covered under the base warranty. Sure, if you're going to trade the vehicle in within 3 years and get another one, by all means, go ahead, do the 10,000 mile oil changes. Second scenario, if you're going to drive your vehicle at a rate that runs the miles up fast enough, and when I say that, you must be driving this vehicle at probably 250 miles or more a day, and you rack up the 10,000 miles in a period of a month and a half or 2 months, sure, you can run the 10,000 mile oil changes and be no ill effects. But for the average consumer that's going to keep a vehicle 5 to 10 years, running 10,000 mile oil changes is not the best way to keep your vehicle in top shape. All right, so for your average car owner, about 5,000 miles is going to be the maximum you want to wait to change your oil. 5,000 miles or 6 months at the outside. And that is just with daily driving back and forth to work, normal startups, shut-offs, occasionally driving it on the interstate. About 5,000 miles, like I said, or 6 months, whichever occurs first. So let's cover one more scenario before we get in here and change the oil. If you are using this as a sports car and are running track days and are really running this car very hard, because I know some people take the IS350 and they do take and put it and run track days with them, you really should consider after every track event changing the oil. Because if you're running track days, the high RPMs really works hard on the oil, works to break it down a lot faster. So with all that said, let's get in here. We're going to do a quick oil change on this, and then we're going to cover and discover what we've got to look at and what we should be doing under the hood as we go along. Alright, so the oil change is almost complete. We're almost done. Wanted to bring you in here. I want to show you what 5,000 mile oil looks like. And no, while the color of your oil does not necessarily determine whether or not it's doing its job or protecting anymore, it does indicate that it is beginning to break down due to heat, due to use and wear, and it just is an indicator of what you need to be doing. You need to be changing your oil, running your oil all the way out until the very end of all the protective capacity that is in the oil, the detergents and the corrosion inhibitors and all the other stuff that is in the oil to protect your engine, and just running it out until the very end. It's completely depleted by the time you get to 10,000 miles. So how much protection have you been losing as you went along the way? So I'm gonna bring you in here real close. I want to show you what this oil looks like. I caught it up. I have an empty jug that I poured it into and caught it up in, and let's take a look at it. All right, hopefully we're gonna do this without spilling it on the front of the car, but I want to get you to just look down into that oil. You can see that it is quite dark. I'll dip a little bit up here. It is beginning to oxidize slightly. That is not to say that it is not still protecting your engine, but it is beginning to say that the oil is beginning to get broke down. All right, so something to keep in mind, last word on oil on this video, and that is it's not the oil that is necessarily getting broke down. What you need to understand is oil came out of the ground. It was processed and refined. What's getting broke down and is getting depleted are the additives that are put into the oil to protect your engine and to increase the longevity of your engine. The molybdenums, the calciums, the phosphates, the zinc, and all the other stuff that they put in oil begins to break down and become depleted, and the ability to protect your engine begins to wane as you go through time. So, change your oil. Now, let's get in here and get it filled back up. We're fixing to get into what we need to be looking at underneath our hood in order to keep up the maintenance on our vehicle. With this vehicle being only having 9,300 miles, there's not a lot you need to do. Mostly what you're going to be doing is looking with your eyes. If you noticed in the time-lapse video that happened a few minutes ago when I was just running through the oil change portion of this, as I'm laying under the vehicle, you noticed I laid there for quite a while and didn't move. What I was doing is I was looking around under the vehicle. I was checking to make sure I didn't see any oil spots or anything leaking out from under the vehicle. The coolant. I'm looking at my tires. I'm looking at my steering components. I'm looking at everything underneath the front that doesn't seem to look right. Looking for any damage that might have happened underneath the aerodynamic fairing that is underneath the vehicle. Just kind of taking a look around so I kind of get an idea of what it's supposed to look like, and if I can spot anything that has happened or is changing as time goes on. Primarily coolant leaks, oil leaks, possibly brake fluid leaks, anything of that sort. You just want to kind of keep an eye. Like I said, you got time, the oil's draining, you might as well look around and see if you see anything else while you're there. So, under hood, where we're going to start is over here with our battery. First thing we're going to do when we're checking our battery is take our hand and reach on each side and make sure that the terminal's tight. Make sure that there's nothing loose. To get your positive little cover off, you just raise it up and it slips right off. And you have a couple of different contact points on this positive terminal, where you have the point where it connects to the battery itself, and then you have a point where the battery terminal or battery cable actually connects to the terminal. So you want to make sure it's tight, and you want to make sure where it secures to the battery is tight. Then in the center, you have a hold down, and you want to make sure that you can't lift this up and that it's not going to come loose. You can shake the battery is secure. Next thing you're going to look for is you're going to make sure that you're not developing any corrosion which could get around your terminals on your battery. You just want to make sure that your battery stays healthy and in top shape. And this pops right back on. All right, here on the side of the battery, you have your upper electrolyte level and your lower electrolyte level. And you always want to make sure that it stays to the upper side of the electrolyte level. These will actually unscrew, and you want to be careful whenever you're dealing with a battery and you're messing around with the battery. This is acid, and it will burn you. You can set that to the side and look over in there, and you want to make sure that whatever you use does not have a spark to be able to, when you look over in the battery, you should be able to see the electrolyte toward the top of the hole. And you can do that for all 6 holes. And if you're able to get a light to shine and reflect and see where the level is through the side of the battery, that's acceptable too. But making sure that the electrolyte stays up in the battery, make sure that the battery doesn't end up with a dry cell and a shorted cell, and it extends the life of the battery. All right, so the last thing we're going to cover on batteries, like I said earlier, I know some people only drive these cars on the weekend. Sometimes they drive them even less than that, and they stay in a garage somewhere, and they may not drive it every 2 or 3 weeks, okay, or maybe even a month. So if you are going to only use this vehicle on a limited basis, and you're not driving it every day, and it's every couple of weeks, there's probably nothing you need to do. If you're going to be driving this vehicle only every 3 to 4 weeks, it is highly recommended that you buy what is called a battery tender. Make sure you use the battery tender brand, or one that works just like the battery tender brand does. As this battery charger tops your battery off, it has the electronic circuitry in it and knows when the battery is completely full and shuts itself off. Over time, as the battery is being consumed by the computer of the vehicle and all the other stuff that needs to be kept alive on the vehicle, your battery's steadily discharging. The battery tender will automatically turn itself back on and gently bring the battery back up to the proper level to where it's supposed to be. And again, when it reaches its full charge capacity, shuts itself off, and you will have a fully charged battery anytime you go to get in the vehicle, so you never have to experience a dead battery until the end of the life of the battery. And the absolute last thing I will say on a automotive battery is at 3 years it should be tested, and at 4 years just replace it. If your battery has made it 4 years, and I don't care how good it's starting the vehicle, I don't care how good it tests, replace it. Batteries are not what they used to be. 5 and 6 years out of a battery, not as common as it used to be. Still happens, but for reliability's sake, I say every 4 years, just put a battery in your vehicle. Moving around, we're going to be inspecting and checking our wiring to make sure that there's no evidence of any kind of rodent damage, that any kind of vermin who tends to like Toyota Lexus wiring has been chewing on anything. Everything looks okay. And we're going to move around, and we're coming up to the airbox. The airbox is pretty simple. It's got some little flip tabs. You flip them down, raise the lid, take it out for an inspection. This one went only 9,000 miles. Looks like brand new. Alright, so now that you've got your air filter out, you can take and just gently tap it on the palm of your hand, and you can check and see a whole bunch of debris falls out of it. There's hardly anything in this one. And then I'll bring you in close, and you can look inside the airbox and see some of the stuff that's being kept out of your engine. This is the inside of the airbox. That larger chunk was actually a piece of foam that got sucked up, and you can see all the bits of sand and grit that get caught up as you're driving your vehicle. You take your wet dry vac and clean out most of that debris and get most of it out. Air filter should be replaced about every 2 years, 30,000 miles, give or take. I don't particularly care for the wet gauze type oil filters. They have a tendency to mess with your mass airflow sensors, your MAP sensors, and all the other stuff. And they also have a tendency to make throttle bodies dirtier faster. Stick with the basic paper filter. They do a very good job of providing the protection that your engine needs. The high performance filters, there's not that much performance to gain from using them. So we're going to move around the front of the engine, and you got your air snorkeling, you've got heater hoses, you've got more electrical that you can look at, more electrical across the front of the engine. And you can see that you have an overflow tank right here. This is not pressurized. This is just a coolant overflow tank, and you can actually look at it on the side through right here, and it has a full and a low. Keep in mind that it will be checked when it's cold. It should be reading between full and low. As the engine heats up, the coolant will expand and it will actually push coolant into this jug, and that level will rise. If it's on low cool, you actually will top this level up in this surge tank with the factory approved coolant, which for this is the Toyota pink coolant. Now, next we're going to remove gently, it's only held on with some pins, is the engine cover, and our little rubber grommet stayed on its post. No big deal. Get it in here and just pop it back into place. There we go. Now, this will give us an opportunity to look at the top of our engine. You don't really need to know what everything is here and what everything does in order to be able to get a baseline and see if something is starting to change. What you're looking for are any leaks, possible rodent damage to your wiring, like I said before, and just to make sure everything kind of looks like it's in place. If you've done this since you've owned the vehicle from the very beginning, you will get a baseline and understanding of the way things look under here, and you will be able to know if something has changed and you need to get it serviced or checked. One of the other things that you can do, especially if you leave your vehicle to sit for those 2 or 3 weeks and you don't drive it as often as you do your everyday daily car, is actually pop this cover off right here. The only thing this cover does, this is a sound dampener and a decorative cover for the engine. That's its sole purpose. Sound damper and decorative cover. It provides no real protection for anything else. That is its sole purpose. Now, the reason I'm saying remove that cover, and if you park your vehicle indoors and it's in a place where you can leave the hood up and that cover off, that tends to deter rodents from nesting under your engine compartment. They like to do things in secret. They like to get in a hidey spot, and if you leave the hood up and that cover off, it doesn't leave them a place to where they can get in and hide as easily. It doesn't completely deter them, but it is somewhat of a deterrent. Now, in order to put your engine cover back on, after you've taken a look and made sure everything looks okay and looks about the same underneath the hood, to put your engine cover back on, it's pretty simple. You raise it up at an angle like that, and you line up that back hole, and then you can gently find and push it down till it till it snaps. Push it down, and let's see, did we miss it? We may have missed it. You just kind of have to feel it. There it is. You just kind of have to feel around for it, and it will drop right back on those pins, pops in place. All right, so we're going to move around to the driver's side under hood. All right, so on the driver's side under hood, you have your washer fluid fill right here. I don't have a particular bug juice or windshield washer fluid that I like best. Whatever you like. use it. I usually stick with the blue washer fluid. It's cheap and is effective. Now, continue to check and inspect your wiring over here on your driver's side. Look down in the crooks and crannies, make sure everything looks okay down in here. And this is your anti-lock brake unit right here. You can check your lines, make sure that you don't see anything at the top of them that would indicate a leak. And back here is your brake fluid reservoir. It takes .3 or .4, either or. And you can see through the side of it where the level is. Now, let's talk about brake fluid level in your master cylinder reservoir. As your brake pads wear on your vehicle, the fluid level will naturally go down. When you get down close to minimum level in your reservoir, it is not advised to just top up your reservoir. Don't just fill it back up. You should really be inspecting your brake pads, because as your brake pads wear, they go further out. The pistons on the calipers go further out, and the fluid is filling in behind them, and that's where that fluid most likely has gone, with the exception of in case you have developed a leak. But if over a long period of time the fluid level slowly goes down, that indicates you need to be looking at your brake pads. Now, let's move on and take a quick look, and I'll show you what you're looking for on your tires. Alright, it is very well and common known that the IS350 has a tendency to eat tires pretty rapidly. The inside shoulder of this tire is pretty worn. As you can see, we will probably be doing good to get another 10,000 miles out of these tires. The center tread grooves appear to be doing okay. It's mostly the shoulders, and that tends to be the problem with these tires, is that they wear out really fast on the shoulders. When these tires are new, they don't come with a whole lot of tread on them. And these are a very, I wouldn't say aggressive, but they are a pretty soft rubber compound, and they have improved handling and all of that. So you got to keep that in mind when you're purchasing one of these cars. So it does require you to get down on the ground a little bit to take a look at the face of your tire, and you can tell the inside on the rears are much more worn than the outside on the rears. Like again I said, this is a known problem with the Lexus IS series vehicles. They do wear out the inside tread faster than the outside. Alright, so there's a few basic things for you to be looking at to make sure that your IS350 stays in top shape. There are some things under the rear of the vehicle that I will film a video on eventually, but that requires that we get the back of the vehicle up in the air where we can get in there and check some things, and that would be the rear differential and axles and brake lines and a few other things, suspension components in the rear. We'll do a video on that one day soon. Now, that's going to wrap us up, and I got to get in here and wash this thing so that it stays nice and clean and shiny and pretty. So while I'm doing that, why don't you go watch another video coming on the screen right now.